Every brand has a beginning. Most people only know the ending. Most people think they know where Nintendo began. They picture arcade cabinets, pixelated plumbers, or the familiar gray box of the Nintendo Entertainment System sitting beneath a television in the 1980s. In popular memory, Nintendo seems inseparable from video games. But when Nintendo began, video games did not exist. The company that would one day define an entire entertainment industry started in 1889 in Kyoto, Japan, making something much simpler. Playing cards. The founder was a craftsman named Fusajiro Yamauchi. At the time, Japan had a long cultural history with card games, but many forms of gambling had been restricted by the government. Traditional Western playing cards were discouraged, so Yamauchi specialized in producing Hanafuda cards, beautifully illustrated decks used for a variety of Japanese card games. Each deck was handmade. The cards were thick, durable, and painted with floral designs representing the months of the year. They were small objects, but they carried a sense of craftsmanship and tradition. For decades, Nintendo was nothing more than a respected card manufacturer. The business grew slowly but steadily. Demand came from gaming halls, private clubs, and eventually large companies that used the cards for employee entertainment. By the early 20th century, Nintendo had become one of the most recognizable producers of Hanafuda cards in Japan. But the market had limits. Cards could only sell in so many places, and the business was deeply tied to traditional entertainment. As Japan modernized after the Second World War, the card market began to stagnate. Younger generations were interested in new forms of recreation. The future of the company became uncertain. Leadership had passed to the founder's grandson, Hiroshi Yamauchi. Unlike his grandfather, Hiroshi was not a craftsman. He was a businessman, ambitious and impatient with the idea that Nintendo would remain a small card company forever. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, he began searching for new directions. Some of those experiments were strange. Nintendo launched a taxi company. They tried selling instant rice products. They experimented with toys, novelty gadgets, and various small entertainment businesses. One of their more unusual ventures involved opening what were known as love hotels, short-stay accommodations that catered to couples seeking privacy in crowded cities. None of these ventures became the future Hiroshi Yamauchi hoped for. Some failed quickly, others faded quietly. The company spent years searching for an identity, moving from one experiment to another, never quite finding the momentum that would secure its long-term survival. For a time, Nintendo appeared to be a company drifting through possibilities rather than building towards something clear. Then, an unexpected opportunity appeared inside the company. One of Nintendo's maintenance engineers, a man named Gunpei Yokoi, created a mechanical toy for his own amusement during downtime at the factory. A simple extending arm made of plastic that could grab objects across a table. Yamauchi saw the device and immediately recognized something. The toy became the Ultra Hand, released in 1966, selling more than 1 million units. For the first time, Nintendo found success not by following existing markets, but by inventing a new kind of playful product. That moment shifted the company's direction. Throughout the late 1960s and 1970s, Nintendo invested heavily in toys and electronic amusements. Yokoi continued designing creative gadgets, blending mechanical play with emerging electronics. The company moved gradually from traditional toys toward interactive entertainment. Arcade machines came next. As the video game industry began emerging in the late 1970s, Nintendo entered cautiously. Many early arcade titles failed, but the company continued experimenting, refining both technology and character design. In 1981, one of those experiments succeeded beyond expectations. A game called Donkey Kong introduced players to a character who would later become one of the most recognizable figures in gaming history, Mario. The success of Donkey Kong helped establish Nintendo as a serious player in the growing video game industry. But the company's most important moment was still ahead. In 1983, the video game market in North America collapsed. A flood of low-quality games had overwhelmed consumers. Public trust in the industry evaporated almost overnight. Many companies disappeared. Retailers refused to stock consoles. Video games seemed finished. Nintendo, however, believed the industry could recover if quality and trust were restored. 1985, they introduced the Nintendo Entertainment System to the American market. The console was marketed not as a traditional video game machine, but as a controlled entertainment system with strict quality standards. Developers had to follow Nintendo's rules. Games carried a seal of approval. The company regulated what could be released and when. Slowly, confidence returned. Games like Super Mario Bros. Transformed the console into a cultural phenomenon, and Nintendo helped rebuild an industry that had nearly destroyed itself. By the 1990s, Nintendo had become one of the most influential companies in global entertainment. Its characters, consoles, and design philosophy shaped how millions of people experienced interactive media. But the company's origins were far from predictable. It began with painted playing cards. It wandered through failed businesses and unusual experiments. It discovered success through toys. And only then, nearly a century after its founding, did it become the gaming company the world now recognizes. The controller feels inevitable today. The path that led to it was anything but. That is how it all began before the brand.